JDL USA presents Rabbi Nachum Shifren, Torah scholar, author, public speaker, and good friend of the late Rabbi Meir Kahana.
Well, good evening and good week. Shavua Tov to everybody. We were dealing with, unfortunately, a little bit late with the weekly parsha, but better late than never, right? Anyway, since there's no such thing as late or early in the Torah, and we are part of the Torah, so might as well keep that admonition in mind all the time. Our parsha here is a very consequential one. Parsha SCHLACH, SCHLACH Anashim. This was a very, very sad day for the Jewish people. This is of course, the situation of the spies, quote unquote spies, that Moses sent into Israel, 12 of them. And there's a couple of things here that we want to focus in on. First of all, the questions asked by many people, way, way smarter than me, and answered by many people smarter than me, way smarter than me. But there's an obvious question. Why is it that why do people have to go into the land of Israel to spy it out, to check it out, to see if what God said was true? God said, I'm going to take you to a land of milk and honey, where you will thrive and grow and it'll be good. Is there something wrong with that? Did he say something that wasn't clear? Why are these guys now thinking, you know what, we want to go check it? So Hashem says, you know what? You want to go check it? I'm going to give you enough rope to hang yourself with. And truly, that's how it was. Where they really messed up was one thing that there was a couple things here but one thing that we can bring forth out of this whole thing and look at it in terms of generations that followed. When the spies came into the land of Israel, there were giants there. Of course, there were cities, there were fields, crops, whatnot. The spies did not want to go into the land of Israel. Well, let's be clear. Why? What would you do if somebody gave you a free credit card to have enough food, drink, you could study all day long, you don't have to do any work, no planting, no harvesting, no weeding? How would you feel? Well, I've talked to a lot of rabbis that came to the same conclusion as the spies. Well, why deal with this? They were in the desert for 40 years. Do you remember what they had to eat and drink? Raise your hand if you remember. They had the man, we call the manna from heaven. It's still used today in all kinds of literature. Manna, man in Hebrew. And we had the well of Miriam. Wherever they would go, the well would miraculously be with them. And of course, they had the clouds of glory, which kept them nice and cool in the Sinai desert. You don't want to be there without clouds of glory, first of all, because you'll die. There's no way you can survive out there in that heat. So they had it made. By the way, this generation that was in the desert was called Dur Hadia, the generation of knowledge. All they did was learn all day long. Great, amazing minds, amazing scholars. But they had one little problem. The idea is not to leave Egypt to just, chill out in the desert for 1,000 years. That wasn't the purpose. Purpose was to go into the land that God promised them, which comes into which brings about a very existential question. Why go into the land if everything that you're doing is You're obeying the mitzvot, the commandments. You're doing stuff. You're learning all day. You're getting close to God. There's nothing around. You're in the middle of the desert. There's no Disneyland. There's no lunar parks. There's no skateboarding. That's it. And they were really into learning. But what they forgot is one little thing: the mitzvah, the commandment of Yishuv Haaretz, of settling the land. The whole point was the land was made and designed for the Jewish people to go in and settle it. When they did send the spies in, it was basically a pretext so that they could come back with all kinds of fantastic stories that would scare the people from wanting to go in the land. Amalek, they saw, was in there. Everybody remembers Amalek, the first how should we say it, opponent of the Jewish people. They saw strange fruits. They brought back on a stretcher amazing grapes that were watermelons, apparently, because it took a whole bunch of guys to take these things out on a stretcher. And they mentioned that there were some spies in there. There were giants. These giants, that's another story of what they were doing in there. But some of the spies heard the giants saying that they saw ants crawling around in the fields. Ants meaning the spies, because they were so small in comparison to the giants. And then they added the following. When they came back to tell Moses and the Jewish people what it was, their report, the report was called the Dibah. Dibah is like a false report. And it was false because it was designed to scare the people from coming in. The different nuances of the way they used language they used to review what they had seen. But when they came to the giants, they commented, and they said the following: we were like ants in their eyes. Many people have used this comment and this remark to comment about a certain psychology that bird-dogged the Jewish people for centuries and generations after that. It's called a lack of self-confidence, a lack of stature, a fear of what will others think of us, and so on. Let's go back let's go backward about 1,000 years. When Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, was raped by Shem in a place called Shem, by the way, which is called Nablus in Arabic. People know the name Nablus, but they don't know the name Shem. Shem is one of the 3 holy places in the land of Israel. And when the brothers of Dinah found out what the head of that city had done to their sister, they knew that they had to take action. By the way, after the great flood, we've talked about this before, the flood where Noah, was floating around on his ark. When they came out of that ark, there was a whole new world, a world of life after everything had been flooded, right? After the flood, there was a whole new world, including a whole legal system that was generated by this event where all of mankind and all living things were destroyed. And it was called the Noahide laws. Some of you already know about those, the 7 Noahide laws. One of them is not to have one of them was about sexual conduct and stuff like that. And it was incumbent upon any Noahite, meaning anybody that survived the flood, to obey those laws. You're not supposed to murder. You're not supposed to, covet. You're not supposed to covet your have sexual contact with people that you're not supposed to, i.e., somebody else's wife, etc. So when Dina was raped by this guy, I'm sorry. And one of them was that the nations of the world were to create court systems where they would adjudicate problems, whether it be stealing, whether it be egregious behavior between one guy and his fellow neighbor, etc. And there needed to be judgment. There needed to be order. There needed to be justice. And that was an incumbency that fell upon everybody in the whole world. When the the brothers saw that nobody in Shechem, there was like, I don't know, 500,000 or 250,000 people, not one person rose up and said, hey, wait, you're not supposed to do that to somebody. You're not allowed to rape anybody. When they saw that, it's called collective guilt. When nobody rose their voice, they were all guilty. And indeed, they were all slaughtered by the brothers, Levi and Shimon. Two amazing characters that took upon themselves to correct the egreged sister who had been raped by this guy. Again, nobody did anything, etc. Where are we going with this? That was called being normal. That was called reacting in a just way to injustice. There's a saying in English, justice delayed is justice denied. True. Shimon and Levi saw that there would be no justice if somebody didn't rise up and take care of it. And they did. However, those were normal times. And ever since then, there's been a diaspora. There's been a galut. And the mentality of the galut, the mentality of being dispossessed, of being banished to the four corners of the earth, living with non-Jews, living with all kinds of radical people who would plunder and murder and rape. This caused a real, how should we say it, a horrible complex in the Jewish people. Give you an idea, during the Yom Kippur War, it was known 24 hours before the start of the war that the 4 Arab nations would attack Israel. It was known. Why didn't they activate their reservists? We know now they didn't, because they were worried, well, what would the Gentiles say if they did this? Now, it was in their ability to destroy every one of the airplanes of the enemy. They didn't do it. Thousands of young boys were killed because of that fatal thing. So we were like ants in their eyes. This allusion to a galut mentality, a mentality of the dispossessed, hovers over us even today. There have been, everything I'm saying to you right now, by the way, is coming straight out of, not from me. It's from my teacher and my rabbi, Rabbi Meir Kahana. Years ago, when Menachem Begin was a prime minister, he sent airplanes to Iraq. Some of you remember, may be old enough to remember when they destroyed the nuclear reactor in Iraq. Binyamin Kahana, the rabbi's son, made an interesting observation. He said, Why are we going 5,000 miles to destroy something that may or may not hurt us? Instead, they should be bombing some of the Arab villages in the land of Israel where Jews have been murdered by the populations of those villages. Why aren't we doing that? It's closer to home. Again, a people that are ready to give up their land. They wanted to have Uganda as the promised land in the in the early 1900s. Herzl, one of the first Zionists. Why would they want to do that? God gave us the land of milk and honey. He said, this is the place where it will be good for you. Why would you go to Africa to start a Jewish nation there? That doesn't make sense. Right now, we know that it doesn't. We look back, and it was clear that it was completely nonsensical. But again, when you don't believe in God, this is the result. You have all kinds of people telling you stuff that is completely contrary to his will of where we should live and how we should live. So this is what we see in this parsha. There's three different views about these spies. Some of them were called tzaddikim. Why? Because they were righteous people, or tzaddikim, right? Why? Because they knew that it would be a miracle to uproot the inhabitants, because the inhabitants were strong. They had great they had great populations, etc. And there's no way that the Jews could overcome them. God did that on purpose so that they would rely on God to help them, right? And they knew that there's no way they could overcome them other than with the help of God. With the spies, what they did is one group of them said, "There's no way we can deal with these people. They're smart. They're a lot more mighty than him," meaning God. This is a very, very grave sin that they did. So this is this week's parsha, the spies. There's a couple other things of note, but this is the great, great tragedy where God said, you know what, you guys, this is the 10th complaint that you've done against me. You complained about not having food when you did have plenty of food. You complained about that you wish you could go back to Egypt, where you remember the fish that you used to eat and the cucumbers that you used to eat. Wait a minute. Egypt was slavery. Why would they want to go back there? They don't believe in God. They don't believe that the land of milk and honey is real. This is a problem. And we've been facing this for 2,000 years. And it's a real issue. Everybody, whether you're Jewish or not, is going to have to wrestle with the fact that there are miracles, there are things that happen in the world that are beyond our comprehension. And one of them is the settling of the land of Israel. No oil fields, no nice beaches, no Hawaii, no skateboard parks, no watching movies on Friday night, no cheeseburgers. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? There's a problem that each one of us in our own eyes has to face. And the only conclusion that we can conclude properly and justly is that we don't understand. There's some things we don't understand, and yet we do them because it's God's will. He gave us the land of Israel. It's a miraculous land, actually. It doesn't really make sense that Israel still exists. You've got 20 Arab nations. You've got one small little nation of Israel. Those are not odds you get on Las Vegas. And yet, not just existing, but we saw in this last war an amazing miracle, reminiscent of the Shushan, the capital of Persia. Persia, of course, is Iran. A great miracle occurred there where the Jews who were about to be executed became the conquerors. And here's the same exact thing. No different. So with that, we'll close and we'll say that this next month will be the month of Tammuz. Tammuz, we have a period of Tammuz where we are mourning the destruction of the temple. The destruction of the temple occurred when? When the spies, in other words, on the same date in which the spies said we shouldn't go into the land of Israel. In other words, basically contradicting the will of God in an open way. A lot of people contradict God in their own private way, which is nobody knows the difference, right? Except for him, which is bad enough. But they came back and told the people, no, we can't conquer the land. And there's too many of them. They're too big. We have, there's Amalek there. There's giants there. And here's the strange fruits that we found there. Everything was negative. Dibata Aretz, it's called. So this is the reality that we're in. And the only thing we can do is to pray and to study God's Torah and to learn who we are. Who are we? Who are we? We're not, this isn't a focus group or some sort of social intervention here. This is real. What is our identity? And in this parsha, we find out exactly what's right, what's not right, and the path that we need to take going forward. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful week, and shalom to everybody.